Hello everyone. Today we're going to be continuing with our testing, and this is going to happen by going into our client, our SRC, our features, and we're going to be doing the post details page today. So let's go ahead and let's create a new file, call this post details.test.jsx. And then in our post details test, we're once again going to be importing a bunch of stuff similar to what we've been doing up until now. You can grab most of this from your post list if you just come in here and scroll up to the top and copy and paste this over. You just have to change a couple of things. The memory router, we also want to import route and routes, and then we have our post details being used here. So we'll say post details, and in this application, it's actually called post service. So that's a little bit different there, but the rest of that's pretty good. Now let's go ahead and let's just quickly mock the functions we're going to be using. So the only two we're going to be using from our service are going to be fetch post and delete post. And these are just once again going to correspond to the stuff in our SRC services post service directory. So in here we have the fetch post as well as the delete post service. So those are just the ones we're grabbing. So don't think that this I don't know, it's just coming out of nowhere. It's just coming from our service directory. I'm going to go ahead and open and close the describe. We're going to mock a post. We'll just say mock post right here, ID, title, body, simple stuff. And then we'll set up an after each, where after each test runs, we'll then say just.clear all mocks to clear them up, just so that we don't have any sort of overlap. Once that's done, we can go ahead and get started with our first test. For that, let's do a displays the fetched post data, just like that. Go ahead and close it. And then in here for displaying the fetched post data, we're actually going to be doing something a couple of times as I'm looking at this. So it kind of makes sense for me, or sorry, it kind of makes sense to me to set these routes up just once. So let's come in here after the mock post, and let's just say const, I don't know, render something, render component. And then in here, we're going to do a render with our memory router, our routes. We'll have a route path for that. Close it, close it, close it, and close that. But in here, I think it makes a bit more sense instead of doing the routes like this, because we're also going to need the route path. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. We'll just put the route path in here as well. And then we can probably just use this render component wherever we need to instead of using the writing this every single time. So, okay, let's come in here now and let's actually do this. We're going to start by saying post service.fetch post. We want to mock the resolved value once, or just mock the resolved value, whichever one floats your boat. And then after we do that, let me scroll up here. After we mock the resolved value, we then want to render the component. After we render the component, we then want to say screen.getByText, where we expect the title and the body to be in the document. So let's go ahead and let's save that. Let's run this, and then we'll see if we get any errors with this. We can see right here, just.mock. We're getting an error because I copied something that has an S in it still. So let me go ahead and remove that, change it to post service, and then let me run this test again. Okay, and there we go. We can see one test passed. So we know this first test is doing whatever we think it's doing. Let's actually come over to our terminal and run a npm run coverage real quick. Because again, we did that coverage ticket the other day. It makes sense to just keep doing this. So we can see right here, we have 75% of functions or 71% of lines being covered, but we're missing lines 16 and 23 through 27. So let's go ahead and let's come into our post details component real quick, because there's a couple things in here we want to change before we do that. So those errors are actually coming, or those missing lines are coming from this catch right here and this catch right here. For this top catch, we actually want to change this to be a console.error, and then we want to change it from an error occurred to failed to fetch the post. And the reason why we're doing this specifically like that is sort of to keep it uniform with the rest of the application, but also it didn't really make sense to have this be a console.log when it's, you know, an error, right? So we'll just go ahead and do this so now all of it's the same. I think that's pretty much the only changes we had to make in here. So let's come back over to our post details and let's keep going. We have our display the fetched post data test. The next one we want to do is going to be a handles the error when fetching the data test. For this, we once again want to say post service.fetch post.mock rejected value, and then you could pass in something like failed to fetch the post. You can also take this and say const error equals whatever that error was, and then just pass in the error like we did in the other file. So we mock that rejected value. We can then do the render component, but I do think because we're going to be doing a we're not really grabbing the text. We're going to be grabbing this from the console again. we're going to do our console spy again. And then instead of doing this with the wait for expect on screen, we can do an expect console.spy to have been called with, failed to fetch the post with a space, and then the error. And then after we do all of that, let me come out here. Let me just make sure that we have all of these. We want to close the brace, close the parentheses. We can then do a console spy dot mock restore like that. I think that's how you do it. And then we can go ahead and run this test and see what happens. So we have our post details test running. That one passed. So we now know that we have both of those. So let's go ahead and let's run this again. Let's see if this 16 line goes away. And then if we only have the 23 through 27 again, which we do, which is good. Our code coverage is increasing, but it's not quite at that 80% threshold we want yet. So let's go ahead and let's get it there. The last one we really have to do here then is going to be the deleting the post, and then you get like redirected or whatever, right? Because I think that's how it works. You come into post details. We have 23 through 27 means we also have to do this right here. So let's delete a post and then make sure we get redirected. To do that, we can say, let's do a test. Let me minimize this one and this one. We can do one more where we say deletes the post and redirects. What do we want to do in here? We want to start by saying post service.fetch post, mock the resolved value. That's good. Then we want to delete the post. We want to render the component. We can then do an await for expect screen dot get by text. I don't think we need to do this. What we actually want to do is a fire event dot click screen dot get by text delete, something like that. And then we can do one more where we expect the screen text dot get by text post list to be in the document. Now, if we run this, we can click run. We'll take a look at this in a second. You can see this passed right here. Now, the reason why we can do this get post list stuff right here is actually because if you see this line of text right here, after we do the delete, we get redirected to the root of our document, right? Or sorry, to our app. And up here in our router, we've actually established that this has a mocked index page that has post list on it. So that's why we're able to say get by text, even though if we come into our posts list component, you'll see there is no post list text in here. It's just because we're mocking it. So this might seem a little bit fragile because it's like, what if we change our index page? But we actually don't even care about the index page here. We have a hypothetical perfect index page that will always work for us as long as we don't, break the test itself. Because we're saying this is for the details pages for the show page. It doesn't matter if the index page works or not. All that matters is that the details page redirects us to an index page when it's done. So we keep that a little bit separated. And now if we go ahead and we run this, I expect this 23 to 27 amount to change. So we can see now we're only missing 27, which gives us 94% code coverage. At this point, you could probably call it a day. But actually testing this last one with this error condition is pretty easy. So let's just go ahead and let's do that one real quick. We'll come down here. We'll write one last post. So it handles error when deleting the post. Sounds good. We'll come in here. We'll just hit enter on this and see what GitHub Copilot has generated for us. So it says const error equals new error failed to delete. That makes sense, but we want to change this to post just because I like that more. We then fetch post, mock the resolved value for the mock post. We're passing in our mock post from up here, right? Then we do a delete post, mock a rejected value, makes sense. We do our console spy stuff. We render the component. We then wait for the click where we click on the delete button. We then wait for the console spy tool being called with failed to delete post, which again is going to match up with our post details, failed to delete the post. And then we pass in our error and then we do our mock restore. So let's go ahead and let's just run one more NPM run coverage real quick just to see what it looks like right now. We can see we have 100% code coverage. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to do a get add dot get commit dash. Well, actually, let me do a get status because I know I'll get yelled at if I don't do this. We change both of these files. It makes sense. We'll do a get add dot get commit dash m covered the post details page. And then we can do a get push to push up to this branch. And then we can come in here actually one last time and we'll just grab a snippet of all of these tests. Boom. And then we can come up here to our code. We should see this PR ready to be created if we refresh the page. Okay, there we go. Compare and pull request. Hello, there we go. And then we'll just paste in this image. Click create pull request. We should see the image along with the commit. All of that looks fine. We go over to our files change. We've changed 2 of them. Seems to make sense to me. Of course, we needed to change both of these errors. That's fine. So let's come over here. We can do a merge pull request, confirm merge. And that should be it for this week. Yeah, okay, so our issue's been closed. We seem to now have a working application that has some more stuff being tested. The only thing left to test now is going to be our service. We have to do our edit and our new form. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.